Hello, my name is Dr. Yaya Sissoko. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 3, Interdependence and the Gains from Trade, a period for the modern economy. Let's begin the modern economy with the assumption that we have only two goods, meat and potatoes, and only two people, a cattle rancher named Rose and a potato farmer named Frank. Both would like to eat both meat and potatoes. If Rose produced only meat and Frank produced only potatoes, both will gain from trade. If both Rose and Frank produced both meat and potatoes, both gain from specialization and trade. Let's use the production possibility frontier to show various mixes of output that an economy can produce. Looking at the production opportunity, Frank can produce 1 ounce of meat in 60 minutes and 1 ounce of potato in 15 minutes. On the other hand, Rose can produce 1 ounce of meat in 20 minutes and 1 ounce of potato in 10 minutes. If both use 8 hours in the production process, Frank can produce 8 ounces of meat and 32 ounces of potato. And Rose can produce 24 ounces of meat and 48 ounces of potato. From Frank production facility frontier, Frank can produce 4 ounces of meat in 4 hours and 16 ounces of potato in 4 hours. Therefore, with no trade, Frank will choose to produce and consume at point A. On the other hand, from Rose production facility frontier, Rose can produce 12 ounces of meat in 4 hours and then 24 ounces of potato in 4 hours. Therefore, with no trade, Rose will choose to produce it and consume at point B. Looking at specialization and trade, Frank specialized in growing potatoes. Frank would spend more time growing potatoes and less time raising cattle. Rose, on the other hand, specializes in raising cattle. Rose would spend more time raising cattle and less time raising, so growing potatoes. So for trade, let's assume that you need 5 ounces of meat for 15 ounces of potatoes. Figure number 2 show how trade expand the set of consumption opportunity. From frank production and consumption, frank production and consumption without trade was at point A, where Frank was, producing and consuming 4 ounces of meat and producing and consuming 16 ounces of potatoes. So now with trade, Frank production will be at this point. So Frank will use the 8 hour to produce 32 ounces of potato. And Frank will trade, so recall that the exchange rate is 5 ounces of meat for 15 ounces of potato. Frank will trade, 15 ounces of potato to, to Rose to get 5 ounces of meat, and Frank will be left with 32 minus 15, which is 17. Frank will be left with 17 ounces of potato. So therefore, Frank consumption with trade will be at A star, where is consuming 5 ounces of meat and 17 ounces of potato. Frank will be able to consume outside his PPF, which is this line. On the other end, Rose production and consumption is as follows. Without trade, Rose was consuming at point B, where she is producing and consuming 12 ounces of meat and producing and consuming 24 ounces of potato. Now with trade, let's assume Rose will be producing at this point. So Rose will use 6 hours of 8 hours to produce, 18 ounces of meat, and 2 hours to produce 12 ounces of potato. Given the exchange rate of 5 ounces of meat for 15 ounces of potato, Rose will trade 5 of these 18 ounces of meat, to Frank. So 18 minus 5, Rose will be left with 13 ounces of meat. So Rose will receive 15 ounces of potato from Frank. So 12 plus 15 will give 27 ounces of potato for Rose. Therefore, Rose will be able to consume with trade at point B star with 13 ounces of meat and 27 ounces of potato. So both of them are better off with trade. Trade allows each to consume more meat and more potato. Figure number 2, panel C, show the gain, a summary of the gain from trade. So without trade, the production and consumption is, for Frank, 4 ounces of meat and 16 ounces of potato. With trade, Frank will produce in the 8 hours to produce 32 ounces of potato and 0 ounce of meat. Trade, Frank will get 5 ounces of meat and give away 15 ounces of potato. So therefore, Frank will consume 5 ounces of meat and then uh, 17 ounces of potato. 32 minus 15 equal to 17. And then, so for Frank, the net gain from trade, there will be increase in consumption for 1 ounce of meat and 1 ounce of potato. On the other end, for Rose, without trade, Rose will produce and consume 12 ounces of meat and 24 ounces of potato. With trade, Rose will produce 18 ounces of meat and 12 ounces of potato. So Rose will trade 5 of the 18 ounces of meat. We give 5 ounces of meat to Frank, and get 15 ounces of potato from Frank. So 5 minus 18 minus 5, Rose end up consuming 13 ounces of meat, and then Rose end up consuming 27 ounces of potato, which is 12 ounces plus 15 equal to 27. So the net gain from trade in increase in consumption for Rose as well by 1 ounce of meat and then 3 ounces of potato. So trade allow each to consume more meat and more potato.